Corin from Greenwood Bonsai studio here in Nottingham. I'm going to do a short video for you today on styling a Cedar of Lebanon. A few weeks ago I bought a collection of trees off somebody that was getting out of bonsai as a hobby. And one of the trees in this collection was this Cedar of Lebanon here. We've had it on the nursery for a few weeks, and when it came in I thought it would make a nice tree as a demonstration. The owner hadn't done a lot to it. They've done little bits and bobs to it over the years, but it needs a little bit more shaping and refinement to make it a better image. So that's what we're going to be concentrating with on this video. I particularly like working on cedars. They're one of my favourite trees. You know, within the bonsai world, you see an awful lot of pines and junipers, and I tend to favour evergreens, a little bit more uncommon. So cedars, hemlocks, cryptomeria, that sort of tree, I'm quite keen on working on them. I like to try and create examples of them and have some examples in my own collection. So because of that, I kept this one to one side, thinking I'll get round to working on it one day, and today's the day. So what do we know about it? We don't know a lot about it from the previous owner. It's in a pot that doesn't really suit it. The roots are a bit of a jumble. There's a few dead roots sticking up here. They're a bit of a mess in here. We need to do something with these roots if we can. There's a little branch, this low branch has got a guy wire on it here, where the previous owner has obviously thought they want to bring this down. I suppose we can start off by, it's not really doing anything, so we can remove that guy wire altogether. We won't be needing that. Just snip that wire off. So we've got a moderately thick trunk, bit of movement, nice curve to it. This branch here is an awkward branch. The owner was obviously struggling with making a decision on that branch. They pulled it down to try and perhaps put it in a different position. I'm not really keen on that branch altogether. And looking at this tree, evaluating it, obviously we've got a lot of curve in the tree towards you here. And the same can be said if we turn it round here. Well, if we look at it from this point, it's quite linear and straight. So to get the most movement, we want to be working with either front maybe towards you, like that, or towards you as a viewer, like that. Now, if we look from the side of the tree, the top of the tree, this apex, tends to go more over to this side. And the apex of a tree often comes towards the viewer, so potentially that could be a front in here towards you. The other thing we need to look at is the branch structure. We've got quite a dominant branch on this side here, and this would make potentially a good branch to the rear of the tree. There's another strong one on this side, so the options are either have a front in here towards me, or a front in here on this side. And I think we've got to assess the trunk line, we've got to assess the branch positioning to try and get the best shape and image to this tree. So we're going to start off by removing a few things that we definitely don't need, and one of those would be this branch, because no matter what front we have, this ugly branch coming from inside that curve isn't something we need. So concave pruner, we can go in there, look, and just snip that branch off, and a closer cut, if we can get in there with that, not so easy. Let's use a smaller one to just go in and neaten that up on the trunk. And we'll put some wound sealant on that in a little bit. So that's better with that gone. There's another little stub up here that we don't need, so let's get rid of that. And at this point here, there's some gin and some deadwood on the tree that the previous owner has done. But to me, this doesn't really add much to the style of the tree. There's quite an ugly callus growing around the base of it here. Potentially, I think it would be better if we remove this altogether and we just start to try and shape this as more of a bend, smoother, rather than have this. And the other reason for me potentially doing that I've been thinking about is if we have a front towards you guys there, this branch here we could bring it down and round to the right. So this branch and this foliage pad is going to hide this gin. So if you can't see it, there's not really much point having it, and it's not particularly attractive anyway. So that's a potential thing we could do. So this is quite a usable branch on this tree. So I think what we'll do, we'll have a little bit of a prune, and let's have a little look at the tree and the branches. So this one here, I'm potentially going to bring it down like this. There's a few dead stubs on it that just want neatening up, and a few branches growing up and down. So I'm just going to work my way along the branch, just trimming out little bits of growth we don't need. But that branch there is usable at least. There's a stub here at the end we can take off. And these are a little bit long, so we're probably going to shorten these back, something like this. This one here we don't need. This section here, see, this is actually snapped. When you move it, can you see it just sort of hanging by a thread? It's not reacting correctly. Right up there at the top, just in here where my thumbnail is, it's snapped off. You can see, but not really held on by anything. So we'll take that off. This other growth is all okay and quite flexible. So we can trim this back to this. And just by trimming this back, can you see now that we can make a bit of a foliage pad with this by wiring it, okay? So that's usable. And then if we follow around here, just shortening back a little bit of this long growth. And at this time of year here in the UK, we're like third week in April. This is just about to bud out, just coming into active growth. It's a good time to do this work. And it's about the latest sort of window of opportunity here to get this work done to this tree this spring, and also to get it potted. Now at the back of the tree here, there's a branch. Well, there's not much on it, a stubby little ugly branch with a few little sprouts on it. It's probably been overshadowed and not getting much light. We don't need to persevere with that, we can get rid of that. We've got other branches we can fill in with. So this one here, again, is a bit long. We can shorten it back to this sort of size. Let's get rid of this gin, because the more I look at it, the more it's annoying me. So we're using a little Bosch mini chainsaw. We should be able to quite easily remove that, like so. Yeah, it's got rid of that gin and also that knuckle around it. And then this flat cut section, we can just use a Makita die grinder with a bonsai tool in the end, just to neaten this up a little bit. And we can dress that up, put some wound sealant on that in a few minutes. Okay. So let's have a look at the front of the tree. And we've started, the front's going to be in here with this branch here, but it's fastened into this pot. So before we go any further, I'm just going to take it out of the pot and have a look, because I think to make the best out of this tree, we want to be able to tilt the tree over a little bit if we can. So just a little wire underneath the pot. I'm just snipping those wires off so that we can get the tree out of the pot. It's been in there for a few years. Can you see there's quite an amount of solid but healthy root in the bottom of that pot. Those wires at the top up here, where it was wired in, they're the ones I've just cut underneath, so we can pull that one out. Here's the other one around here. Just tug those out, get rid of them. So now it's out of the pot. Obviously it was just like this before. I'll try and do this facing you. I'm thinking this branch here, we want it to come down and to the right, and we could help that by tilting the tree a little bit to the right and maybe a little bit forward. So for now, we can just rotate it in the pot like that. Let me just have a look, see if that's the sort of thing we're aiming for. Yes, I think if we get it potentially as a potential new potting angle, something like that gives it a better balance. So what we'll do now is we'll just leave it wedged like that. I'll do a little bit more pruning, and then I'm going to set it back straight in the pot for the wiring. So if I work my way round this tree, this is a good branch to the back. Now there's one in here. This is quite an ugly branch. Whenever you're working with trees, you're always trying to make the branches better. If you look in here, this is a good right hand branch. See this next one up? It's stubby and lumpy. It comes to here. This one's just a really bad formation here. That's never going to be elegant. And it gives us this bit of foliage. But I'd rather get rid of this ugly branch and do without this bit of foliage and use these two bits instead to fill in. And in time, these will grow in. They'll give us this bit of foliage, but we won't have this ugly branch. Again, I think that was a little bit snapped at some point in its life because it was a little bit shaky from this stem. So this next one here that it's coming from, now it just leaves this one. And again, that one is not very clever, doesn't look particularly attractive. So I'm going to remove that altogether with a concave pruner so it's flush cut to the trunk. So these branches are sensible. This one here at the back we said was quite a large branch. And it's quite thick, we can manipulate it down. But you can see as you come up here, this is very heavy, this one here. Then there's some finer growth. So I'm going to take the opportunity to get rid of that heavy one there, look. And we're going to use these finer shoots. We might keep this one, we'll leave that one for now. And then in here, this is a good strong grower. This one is. See this little one in the middle that looks a bit rubbish? No time for something like that. Let's just get rid of him. Yeah, and just neaten that cut up. Take this off from here. Take a few of these stubs and knobbles off just to neaten it up. Make it easy for wiring. We've got a similar thing in here with this branch coming out. There's a little weedy branch here and here, so they can both be removed. We don't need to keep those for the design of this tree. Get rid of those. Little bit of pruning in here. So you can see now from the front, let's see if we can just put a little marker in the front so we all remember what we're doing. So obviously a little bit, it differs a little bit on this branch, but we're pretty much looking at a front. In here, if you line these two bits of wire up, that's a designated front of this tree as we're working at it at the moment. It might alter a little bit in the final stages. So let's just try and get rid of some of these stubs further up the tree where little bits have died off and they haven't been pruned out properly. All these little stubs just want taking back to make it look neater, and it's also going to help us when we come to wire the tree. So we've got a fairly substantial branch here. This one. Let's have a look at the top of the tree. The top of the tree, this is usable. This is a bit too long. This branch here is quite heavy. Coming up here. Not a very good formation on here either. So we're going to take that knuckle off there. And this stub off at the front. Like so. This is usable. But it's too long, we don't need that much of it, so I'm going to shorten that back a little bit. And this one. And then a few of these at the top, just shorten these back a little bit. So I think the next stage with this now is to get a little bit of wire on it and start to shape the top of the tree. We'll start at the bottom, work our way up. And for wiring purposes, just to make it more secure, I'm just going to set it back solid like that to stop it moving about. So we're going to start to get some wire on the tree, get these branches into position. So let's see what we can do. So as I said before, for this sort of demonstration purposes, I use aluminium bonsai wire. So we'll just start off and try and get some wire on these. So I've got a fairly heavy branch here, and the other heavy one is this one here. So let's go in for some some heavyish wire. We'll use a bit sort of 5mm wire on those branches. That's doing the job. So we'll start it off on the back of the tree here, to me, and take this around and up and onto this branch here. It's pretty rigid stuff, this 5mm, but with a bit of manipulation we can make it work. Through here, just wiring between these thinner branches along this heaviest main branch. Move the foliage out of the way with one hand. You know, I'm right-handed, so move the foliage out of the way with my left hand. I'm just wiring along through with my right hand, doing my best not to trap any foliage or needles against the branch. Any that get in the way, I can just pluck them out, remove them with my fingertips as I'm working my way through. And when I get to the end of the branch, this is pretty heavy wire, as I said, so you can use a wire cutter or a bonsai plier to help to manipulate the tip of the wire. You'll find it a little bit easier often. And then back up to this one. And then it splits at this point, so I'm just going to follow the strongest shoot to here, and then when that splits again, I'm going to terminate that piece of wire just like that here and trim off that excess. Okay, so then we've got these two to do something with, so slightly thinner piece of wire for those, and we'll start here again at the back of the tree, and we'll use this little section to do this piece, and then we'll bring this up and around and onto this branch here. This will be a nice little branch to fill in. Just rub off some of those bits of growth we don't need, again just to help us access the branch a bit better, get this wire through. So I've done some of these lower branches with some heavier wire, so we can step down for a little bit of thinner wire to do these secondary branches now. So it's just a matter of working my way along those, getting them wired off in pairs. So this one here at the back, which is the back, isn't it? Well, that's the side. Now get this one done. And at the moment, I'm not worried too much about where the branches are going. I'm just doing the technical job of just getting wire on the branches. People get a bit too, especially beginners, they get a bit too caught up at this stage of sort of wondering where branches are going to go. You know, and I always say, unless they're wired, they're not going anywhere. So don't worry about where they're going. Yeah, instead of spending the time worrying about where they're going, spend the time putting wire on, and then, you know, once the wire's on, then they can go somewhere, can't they? So we'll just get the wire on, and then we'll do the interesting and the artistic bit of actually moving and positioning the branches. So some of these secondary ones, again, just stepping down a bit with some of this wire so that we can get some of these finer ones into shape. This little one here, a bit tucked away there. See if we can't get a wire across to that. And then this one here at the front. And there's the odd little needle, so we can just pluck them out, ones that are growing in the sort of where the branches emerge from, sort of nooks and crannies, and the odd bit of needle that's growing downwards. They're quite easy just to remove just by hand. You know, we've not done a lot of scissor pruning on this tree to this date, just shorten back some of those long shoots. Just try and get a bit of wire on this and then just finish it off at the tip like so. Another piece here, find a way through these little sections down to here, all the way along. Just move the foliage out of the way, look nice and easy like this, trim off any excess. And back up to the other end of the wire. A few old needles here, some longer needles that probably put out a year or so ago. We can just remove those so we can keep these shorter ones. While this tree's been on the nursery, it's been outside and customers have seen it, and we've had quite a few people asking if it was for sale, and I've refused selling it because I genuinely wanted to actually have a go at working on it, because it intrigued me and because I thought it was an interesting tree, you know, and would make a nice little feature, nice little demonstration, nice little video for you. We're always trying now because we've got a few videos on the channel, we're always trying to think. We've got quite a list of ones we want to do. We're just waiting for the right trees to come our way and waiting for the right time of year to produce them and get them released so you can enjoy them. I know a few of you have put requests in and we're trying to do them when we can, but with us being a working bonsai nursery, what we're sort of trying to do with this channel is give people a sort of snapshot of the work we do in a calendar year, you know, and things that happen, the work we do here at a bonsai nursery. So, you know, obviously at the time of year when I'm working on maples, we tend to do a lot of maple videos, and when we get to a time of year when we're working on junipers, we'll do a lot of juniper videos, hopefully. And then in between, we get little projects like this, you know, little cedars, and we do little forest plantings or rock plantings. Anything that we sort of get that we're working on where I think you guys might find it interesting, then it's a good excuse, good idea for us to do a little bit of filming, make a little video for you. Finished wiring the branches on this tree. Now we're going to position them. We talked about altering the position, the angle of the tree, didn't we? So we were going to bring it front towards you. We're going to tilt it to the right and potentially a little bit forward like that. Now this branch here that's going to be at the back of the tree is quite a thick branch. So before I start positioning those branches, I'm going to see if we can put a little guy wire on that and see if I can get one, potentially get one underneath this surface root like so. And bring that up like this, up to this branch, and see if we can just get it up here. We'll put a little bit of, like I do before, a little bit of rubber tubing over here, just to help so it doesn't damage the branch. Twist it on there. There's a more in-depth visual of doing this on the Ezo spruce video that we did a few weeks ago if you want to see more detail about how to do guy wires, because on that tree we put quite a few on it. So once that guy wire's on, just twisting the top of it to move this branch down to take up some of the slack a bit more, and take quite a bit out of this on this particular one. And then once we get it like that, we can trim off this excess wire here, and then we just use a little bit of thicker wire at the midpoint on here, and this will just allow us to just pull this together like so. Should just gradually and controllably bring this branch down. You can see it doing that now. So probably something like that should be sufficient. We can revisit that in a little while. So now, with the front towards you, I'm going to come around that side and try and start it from that side and give you a sort of a view of over my shoulder what I'm looking at. So we'll try this, see if it works. So the front in here, let's have a look. So we're going to have the tree about like this angle here. And this branch has come down a little bit already. Move it down a little bit more like this. This section here, we can manipulate it with pliers, holding the wire, not the actual branch, yeah, so that we can use it to move this heavier wire. And then we can form this branch like so. These thinner ones are a little bit easier, so we'll put a little bit of movement in the branches down like this to create a more flat foliage pad. This one here, go around to the back. This branch here, we need to drop this down. It's going to end up filling in on top of this one. This one here, this plane's going like this. I want to rotate it like this, drop it into here, bring this down like this. Again, a bit of movement in those sections. This one here in there. So that's got this right hand side done. Let's have a look at the front. This one is a bit of a scrappy branch, but we've left it on just to fill in. It's not a very attractive branch. It's not got a lot going for it, but it will help to fill in that area. Now at the top here, we've got a shoot coming up there at the back. Let's see if we can bring this one here down and to the right. This one in here at the back. This one here will form more of an apical shoot with this cascading down from it. This one in here. This one here. That one there. Maybe this one. Move this one out of the way. Drop it down and around into here. And this one here, bring it down quite tightly into here. This section here is a bit too long. We're going to try and use that to fill in the tree on this top left hand side. Let's move that out of the way. This one into here. That's going to fill in nicely because we didn't have any other branches there. Well, there was another one back in there earlier when I was wiring it. It was one of those ones that got a little crack in it, so I cut it off. So we'll use this one to fill in and bring this one down to fill in this area. So let's have a look. Just shorten this back a little bit. And here. And this one here. This is going to come in and down. And that's going to fill in to this section. Down into this point, and this little one fill in just here, so that can come off here. This can trim back this section just here. And I'll try and make a bit of a crown out of this section. These top branches filling in at the back, and then this section here is a little bit weak. See if we can't get some of this foliage back into here to fill out a little bit more. This is a bit long, and then at the back of the tree, bring this down. This one here, trim off any excess, shorten this back a little bit, send that over there. This one down the middle here. This section growing up is quite thick, so again, using pliers we can get that and manipulate it down. Easy, like this, and this one into here. These two are going to need a little wire on them, so let me just pop back round this side. I'll get a little wire on that section there at the top. So now I've wired and shaped, positioned the branches. Next thing to do with this tree really is to get it into a bonsai pot. When we do that, we've got to do a little bit of work on these roots. there's a few little dead roots here, and these roots are a bit of a jumble and really something that should have been addressed years ago. And I want to try and remove some, but the trouble is I don't like this one here. I don't like this one. This one's bad, and so is this one. But that's most of them. So what I'm going to do is try and take the worst ones off, the worst offenders. This one here, and try and tidy some of these others up. It'll be a bit easier to do this once we've got it out of the pot. So next thing, I'm going to comb out the soil from the roots. I'm going to try it in a few different pots and see which we prefer. So next thing is to use a root hook like this and start to comb these roots out. And then this root here at the front that comes off here, this knuckle here, let's see if I can remove that because that's a bit jarring to the eye. So we're just going to switch to a little time-lapse video of me combing this root out. You don't need to see me do that. You've probably seen me do it on other videos anyway. So we'll just start combing these out and then we'll come back and we'll choose a pot. Okay, so now we've got the tree and I've combed the roots out. I've cut off that root at the front and another one that was encircling the trunk. This one here at the back I'd like to take off, but I've took quite a few off already. You can't take too many off at once. Cedar aren't the best tree for having a lot of roots taken off at once. They don't really like it. So I'll take this one off at a later date. We've got a selection of pots. We're quite lucky here. We've got thousands of pots here at the nursery. So I've managed to get a selection in from the shop. And we're just going to try it in a few pots and see which we prefer. So let's start off with a sort of soft, cornered, rectangular pot in a brown clay. And the front of the tree, I'm estimating it a bit because I'm working from reverse. But it was about here, wasn't it, to you? And we're going to lean it over like that. So there's an image of it in that pot. It doesn't look amiss in that pot, quite nice. Let's pop that down there. And the next one, we've got a hexagonal pot, more of a semi-cascade pot, but I thought I'd try it in there just to show you. In my eyes it's a bit too deep for the tree, for the thickness of trunk. It's more of a semi-cascade pot, but you do see trees like this planted into bonsai pots of this sort of shape. Next we've got an oval, fairly deep oval. Now some of these pots are a little deep. Now bear in mind the issue with this tree, it was in quite a deep pot before. I've managed to get a bit of depth off the root ball to get a shallower root ball, but the problem is it was like this, wasn't it? And I need to tilt it, and as I tilt it the depth from here to here increases. So I'm going to need a deeper pot to allow me to get that tilt on. This one is potentially suitable. The only snag is I've got to take even more root off the front and even more root off the back to get it into this pot. And I'm not sure whether that would be a sensible option at this point in time. And then we've got a round pot, cloud feet with rivets round it. And this round pot here, that's quite nice. It's probably, from without looking at the tree, it's my sort of favourite pot, and that might be a strong contender. It gives us a bit of depth, allows us to tilt the tree, which is what we need. And we've got another one here, just an even softer corner, rectangle, quite a usable shape, and it sits quite comfortably into that. So that won't be too bad either. But I think I'm going to go for that round pot, because that round pot was my favourite, and it is a nice pot, and I'm quite pleased with the way the tree's shaped up. So we're going to treat it and pop it into this one. So we can try and get it in there at this sort of angle. So the next stage is to get this pot ready for the tree. So same as usual, let's just push this pot out. It's got a drainage hole and wire holes. So we'll put a couple of bits of wire into this to help secure the tree in place. So we put the wire into the pot To secure the tree, we put mesh in the bottom over the drainage hole to stop the soil falling out, and we fasten the mesh down. Now this pot has got 3 distinct elevated cloud feet. It's very important, and it's a common mistake when you pot into one of these pots, that you need the front of the tree to have 2 feet that are sort of straight like this, or you can have one at the front, but normally 2 because it shows more stability. So if I turn it round, we have the front of the pot towards me, it's just there is the front. Soil mixture we're using is a 50% mixture of akadama and kiryu. So we're going to add some of that to the pot to give us a base compost soil to pop the tree onto. So once we've done that, we can take the tree and we're going to angle it into the pot as we said before. Okay, so we've got the tree positioned in the pot, and then we can add some more soil around the edge of the root ball. We've managed to tilt the tree up and get the desired planting angle, which is an improvement on the initial planting angle that it had. And then we just need to use like a potting stick or something just to work this round the edge of the root ball to get rid of any air pockets and work the soil into gaps. Like so. And then we use a pair of bonsai pliers and bring these wires across like this, and just hold the tree, twist them together to take up the slack. Pull it tight, twist, and any excess wire can just be snipped off, and then push that end down into the wood. And then the same with this one here, bring that across, pull and twist to secure the tree in the pot. Push that down. And then it's always important with anything like this, having done this work, the next thing, we're going to put some wound sealant on these cuts, and then it's going straight outside to be watered. So some of these larger cuts that we made on this tree, we put some lac balsam wound sealant here. These large cuts, this is a very good colour match for the cedar bark. It will really help to blend these in so they're less noticeable on the tree. Another little one here at the back and one here, and then don't forget this cut that we made on this corner. Put some on there. That'll seal the cut, hide it cosmetically, and also help it heal. Another one in here, out at the front. Just dab a little bit of that on, like so. Another one in there. So once we've done that, I'm just going to pop round to the front, and let's just have a little look from the front of the tree and just make sure we've got any little bits that we need to alter, to just prune back. Maybe some of these were a little bit over length to start with here. This wants to be just here. We're happy with the position of these. I'll lift it outside and give it a water, and then we can give it a final look at. So this cedar, as I said before, it came in from a retired bonsai collector, and it needed a bit of TLC, and this is a lot of the work that I do here, working on trees like this. And I earmarked this and popped it to one side because I saw that it had some potential. You know, amongst its neglected branches, it had potential. It had a nice movement to the trunk, quite interesting, and it interested me as to what I could make from it. You know, a few people say, well, what have you kept that for? They couldn't see any potential in it. And I've had a few people that have seen potential in it, perhaps wanted to buy it. But now, at this stage, I've worked on it. By alternate angle of the tree, we've tilted it over more, we've trimmed it, wired it, and finally, we've potted it into a new bonsai container. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to our channel and check out our other YouTube videos. Thank you very much.